Okay. Sorry.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, well, we thank you all for being here today. And Salika Prabhu, thank you for being here. If you're ready, we'll put the verse on the screen and you may begin.
Yeah, we can start with it.
Okay. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam Naraychavam Naruttama. Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tatu Jaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam Naraychavam Naruttama. Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tatu Jaya Mudiraye. Nasta Aprayesu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttaman Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Reading from SRIMAD Bhagavatam. First Canto chapter 17. We are reading today from text number 23. So we recite the Sanskrit text, synonyms, and the translation of Srila Prabhupada. Atavadeva nonam galti agochara sheta suvasya chapi bhutanam iti nischaya. Atavadeva mayaya nonam galti agochara shetasu vaschaschapi bhutanam iti nischaya. Atavadeva mayaya nunam galati agochara shetasu vaschaschapi bhutanam iti nischaya. Word for word translation. Atava, alternatively. Deva, the Lord. Mayaya, energies. Nonam, very little. Gartihi, movement. Agochara, inconceivable. Chetasa, either by the mind. Vachasa, by words. Cha, or api, also. Bhutanam, of all living beings. Iti, thus. Nischaya, concluded. Translation purpose by Divine Grace by Charanara Vinde Siva Furente Swami. Patita Prabhandega Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thus, it is concluded that the Lord's energies are inconceivable. No one can estimate them by mental speculation or by word jugglery. Purport by Divine Grace Prabhupada. A question may be raised as to why a devotee should refrain from identifying actor. Although he knows definitely that the Lord is the ultimate doer of everything. Knowing the ultimate doer, one should not pose himself as ignorant of the actual performance. To answer this doubt, the reply is that the Lord is also not directly responsible, for everything is done by his deputed Maya Shakti, or material energy. The material energy is always provoking doubts about the supreme authority of the Lord. The personality of religion knew perfectly well that nothing can take place without the sanction of the Supreme Lord. And still, he was put into doubt by the deluding energy. And thus, he refrained from mentioning the supreme cause. This doubtfulness was due to the contamination of both Kali and the material energy. The whole atmosphere of the age of Kali is magnified by the deluding energy, and the proportion of measurement is inexplicable. Hare Krishna. Om Agyanam Timirandasya Gyanam Gyanam Shalakaya Shakshu Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyam Sri Guru Sri Yutam Pada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamsha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Ragunatam Tamsa Ajivam Sadhuitam Sabadutam Paijanam Saitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Divam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishaka Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gurangira Devinda Vaneshwari Krishabhanu Shute Devi Pranamamin Hari Priye Mukam Karoti Bachalam Pangam Lagayate Girim Yatripat Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Vancha Karpataru Ubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Sevascha Pati Tannam Pavashnebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srinivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hatavad Amatyayan Nonam Gati Agochara Chitaso Vachasaschapi Bhutanam Iti Nischaya. Thus, it is concluded that the Lord's energy are inconceivable. No one can estimate them by mental speculation or by word jugglery. Hare Krishna. So we welcome devotees to this most auspicious moment of the day, where we engage in the Swadharma, the original Parudharma, as Sukadev Goswami said, of the soul. The whole of human existence is meant only for one purpose: to engage in its constitutional original duty. And that duty is to constantly remember, talk about, hear about the glories of the Lord. So I consider this moment to be the most auspicious moment of the day. So I welcome all of the devotees who are on this platform right now, those who are listening from other channels. We pray that Guru and Krishna will give us the opportunity to benefit maximally in this moment of interactions. Before starting to render this service, I want to offer my respectful obeisance to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the Supreme Human Being, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, to all of the Vaishnava Acharyas, starting from Shiva, Brahma, Narad Muni, to all of the present Acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, by whose mercy we are sitting here today talking about SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, and to our dear spiritual master, Srila Bhakti-Tirtha Swami Gurudev Krishnapad, and to all of the wonderful, noble Vaishnavas, by whose mercy we have been able to learn one or two things in the process of devotional service, who are seated here, who are in other locations, with a far respectful reasons, all of the Vaishnavas. We pray that we may be able to, at the end of this service, have an opportunity to grow in our consciousness in devotional service. So today we are reading continuation of discussions between Maharaj Parikshit and Dharma personified in the form of the bull and the cow. We've been going through a lot of stories, and then today, particularly this section is actually focused on philosophical aspect of the discussions between Parashit and the personification of Dharma. And yesterday we had how this topic started about the purpose for Dharma not wanting to identify who is the cause of her situation that she finds herself in, or abuse. And today, the verse is talking about, we are hearing that it is concluded that the Lord's energy are inconceivable, and no one can estimate them by mental speculation or word jaggery. And that is what makes it very philosophical, because when we talk about God, the moment the word God is mentioned, I remember one time I had to give a lecture in an interfaith program, and I put a poser just like Prabhupada did in this purport, because when it comes to philosophical discussions, Prabhupada most often times do this with what he did with this purport. Prabhupada, although the word talking about understanding God is very confusing, it creates a whole lot of doubt in the minds of the conditioned soul. But Prabhupada made it more doubtful. And that's what he did in this purport. Prabhupada made it more doubtful. And why is he doing that? Because it is necessary for one to be doubtful, because it is from the doubtfulness that one inquire, that one aspire to know. Unless there is a doubt created, one cannot understand deeply subject matter of any kind. And that's why Srila Prabhupada in this purport, because he's talking about the understanding of the nature of the Lord and the activity. So Srila Prabhupada started with a poser, and he started with a thought pattern. Prabhupada wanted to establish a thought pattern and then probe our individual thought patterns about this subject matter. And then in line with this verse, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna himself has said something very interesting. In Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, verse number 17, Lord Krishna told Arjuna, he said, Karmano I api bodhavyam chavikamana akamanas chabodhyayam gaurana karmano gati. Lord Krishna told Arjuna that the intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what is forbidden action, and what inaction is. So Lord Krishna himself, he has established this fact that the intricacies of action and inaction is very complex for one who is embodied. So it is not surprising that Prabhupada started the purport in the manner in which he started, and to explain. And when you look at the purport of this, thank you very much, Sadhu, for bringing that up. When you look at that purport, the very sentence, in the very first two sentences in the paragraph of purport of Srila Prabhupada to that verse, Prabhupada said that if one is serious about liberation from material bondage, one has to understand the distinctions between action, inaction, and unauthorized action. One has to apply oneself to such an analysis of action, reaction, and perverted action, because it is very difficult subject matter. So the subject we're discussing today is a very difficult one. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he started by saying, he put a question. Unlike normal purport, Prabhupada, in this kind of purport, like I said, it likes to create a situation whereby our heart is probed by questions. Doubt is manifested in the form of questions for an intelligent person. And that's why the Englishman says that the symptom of a wise man is that he queries everything. And when he hears about everything, because he's a wise man, he doesn't take everything, hook and sinker. He literally looks at them. And he picks the important thing and throws away the garbage. But he never keeps silent. That is the nature of a wise person. And a devotee is supposed to be a wise person. So the personification of Dharma, you're saying that I don't want to. She doesn't want to identify because of her difficulties or whatever challenges that she has faced, even though when she knows. And so the purport said that a question may be raised as to why a devotee should refrain from identifying an action, although he knows definitely that the Lord is the ultimate doer of everything. So a devotee knows that the Lord is an ultimate doer of every activity. And in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text number 13 to 16, Lord Krishna himself had actually educated Arjuna, where he says that Almighty armed Arjuna, according to the Vedanta, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all action. Now, learn of this from me, Krishna told Arjuna. And they went into text number 14, he mentioned that the place of action, which is the body, where all activities is taking place, is number 1. The performer is number 2. The various senses that we use in engaging in activities is number 3. And the many different kinds of endeavor are number 4. And ultimately, he himself, the super soul, Krishna himself. So Krishna told Arjuna that these 5 contributes to every activity. So when Krishna is talking about intricacies of action, and in this test we are doing today, that we're hearing that intricacies of action is very difficult to understand. Lord Krishna has already given us knowledge in Bhagavad Gita. He has told us, when we go to the text number 15, it says that what? Whatever right or wrong action a man performs by body, mind, or speech is caused by these 5 factors. And in text number 16, he said that, therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the 5 factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. Thank you very much, Sadi. So the fact is that these 5 elements contributes to whatever action that is considered. And the devotee, he knows this. He knows these situations. But then, something interesting is there in the purport of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada posed a question. He said what? He said, a question may be raised by us to why a devotee should refrain, even though a devotee is already informed by the Lord. The Lord has informed the devotee. These are the primary causes of action. So if the Lord has informed, so why does devotees, like Mother Personification of Dharma is doing here, why does the devotee not want to identify the action? Because of the verse we quoted from the beginning, because the intricacies of these activities are very, very interesting. For one who is conditioned, it's very difficult to understand. And there are so many stories to others. I'll share one story. But before going into that story, a devotee is blessed in so many ways. And thanks to Srila Prabhupada, because he has blessed us so nicely. I threw a question to my brother, Sahadev, yesterday about the story that was given by Prabhu. And they was asking, I said, I want to know what should be done. And Sahadev Prabhu, like a philosopher he is, he said, no, Krishna knows. But that is not satisfactory enough. Because why? Because a philosopher is not just satisfied to see, because that is the Western ideology or perception of God. Because a Westerner says that God is doing everything. He's doing everything. So then we should not worry. But if we accept this as an ultimate answer to such a notion or perception, then it means that we reduce ourselves. Because in Krishna consciousness, there is nothing hidden. Lord Krishna, when he's talking to Arjuna in chapter 9 of Bhagavad Gita, he said, I shall reveal to you this knowledge. After knowing, there is nothing left for you not to know. So for a devotee, what is to be done, what is not to be done, is known by a devotee. Only one who is not a devotee does not know what is to be done. So therefore, to understand the intricacies, as Krishna himself mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, in the intricacies of action and inaction, and why devotees don't just jump into wanting to identify the actor in any situation, is that he understands the karma. And that is why the wise have said that unless one has a clear understanding of the knowledge of karma and reincarnation, he cannot understand anything in this material world. And that is the blessings of the Vedic knowledge. That is the richness of this process that we're following. Because unless one understands these 2 subject matters, they give the answers to everything. Everything that can be known, that can be said. And I will share some stories. Then I'll come back to this subject matter to explain that only karma can explain action, the increases of action, and why devotees does not want to. We'll go back to the Prabhupada's purpose. But let us look at the scenario of the Pandavas. We know the villain in the story of the Kaurava story is what? There is a silent villain and there is the active villain. Duryodhana is the active villain. He is the one always acting, doing all kinds of heinous things. But then there is one passive, silent villain, which is the father, the Dhritarashtra. Because whatever Duryodhana did, directly or indirectly, the Dhritarashtra permits that. And because he's permitting all of those things to happen, so at the end of the story of the Mahabharata, we saw that Dhritarashtra had 100 sons, and all of them, A to Z, were killed. And when they were killed, the Dhritarashtra at the end of the battlefield of Kurukshetra, when he had the opportunity to meet with Krishna, Lord Krishna, because Lord Krishna, I don't want to go into that aspect of the story. Lord Krishna had to come because Dhritarashtra was determined in his mind that he was going to finish Bhimasena, because he knew Bhimasena's role in the death of all of his sons. But that particular moment, Lord Krishna had the opportunity to meet with Dhritarashtra after the war of the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And Dhritarashtra, he said, Krishna, I know who you are. And that is interesting, my subject matter. Because if Dhritarashtra know that Krishna is the supreme personality of God, then why was he not listening to the voice of Krishna? Krishna even had to come as a peacemaker, as a peace developer, to come and what? To persuade Dhritarashtra to stop the war. But he never listened. But at this time, Dhritarashtra asked Krishna, "Listen, my dear Lord Krishna, I know you are the beginning, the middle, and end of everything." He said, "There's something that is bewildering me. There are millions of people that were killed in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. But some of the people still are there, remember left." He said, "I had 100 sons, and all of my 100 sons were all killed. I can't understand this. How does this come to be my fate? Please kindly explain to me. I want to understand. Why is it that out of 100 sons, 1, 2, 3, not 10, not 20, not 30, I had 100 sons, and all of them were killed completely? Krishna, something is behind this. I want you to know that." And Krishna laughed. I said, "It's as a result of your karma." Dhritarashtra said, "Please explain it to me. I want to know." And Lord Krishna reminded him, because Krishna is what? Aham Sarvasya Prabhavam. I am the knower of everything. Everything is coming from me. So Krishna told Dhritarashtra, he said, because long time back ago in your previous life, you were a hunter. And in your duty as a king, as a Kshatriya, you were hunting. That was not a wrong thing to do. But while hunting, you saw a particular bird, and you were so passionate on aiming and killing this particular bird. But somehow or other, by due to fate, this bird escaped. And when the bird escapes, you were so angry that you went so close. And when you saw in the nest of the bird, you saw 100 birdlets, the babies of the bird, very young ones. And out of anger for missing to kill this particular bird, out of that rage, you slaughtered all of the 100 birdlets of this bird. And while you were doing that, the bird, because he could see you, is hiding far away, and he was looking at you helplessly. How you slaughtered all of his 100 kids, birdlets. He says, because of that, you have to face the same situation, that you have to have 100 children and they be killed right in your presence while you are alive. This Rashtra said, "Oh, okay, let's assume. Okay, I agree. You are truth personified. If that is the case, then why is it that from your statement, said long time ago, Krishna told him, yes, 50 lifetimes ago. Actually, it is 50 lifetimes ago that this is already happened." And this Rashtra said, "Okay, 50 lifetimes. So why were you keeping all of this for me? for 50 good lifetimes. I've had to come here for 50 lifetimes. And then you keep listening until I have to wait for this time. Why? Krishna, tell me. And Lord Krishna told you, Sarastra. He said, for you to have 100 children at a time, you have to perform austerity for 50 good lifetimes to gather enough punya, piety, for you to be able to beget 100 children. So sometimes when we see people have plenty of children, it's not just an ordinary thing. It's actually coming from pious activities. So Krishna said, you require that. So in every lifetime, you develop the punya, karmana, the piety to be able to develop, to have 2 children, and they accumulated for 50 years, 50 lifetimes. So for that purpose, you have to wait up to this time for you to get enough piety to be able to beget 100 children. So Krishna was explaining to this Rashtra that this is the reason why this happens. And when we look at our lives, when we look at our day-to-day lives, when we look at our Western materialistic view of what happens in this world, when we look at the scenario of what happened with Maharaj Parikshit in relation to the bull, then when we look back at the story, we realize that so many activities happen. So when we see activities, because of our conditioning, we cannot see our immediate past life. Even in the beginning of our present life, we want to talk of many lifetimes behind. So these activities are intricate. They're very difficult to understand. So therefore, in this verse, Mother Bhumi personified, he knows. She knows that, yes, because of my conditioning, and Prabhupada didn't keep us in darkness. When you look at the purpose, that's what Prabhupada said. He said, in the last sentence, he said what? The darkness was due to the contamination of both Kali and the material energy. The whole atmosphere of the age of Kali is magnified by the deluding energy, and the proportion of measurement is inexplicable. So as a result of our conditioning in Kali Yuga, so the intricacies of action and inaction is not able to, it's not understandable. So when we look at the verse is telling us, it is concluded that the law's energy are inconceivable. Lord Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita 27, Prakriti Kriya Manani, Guna Kama, that Ahankara Vimudatma, Kataham, Iti Mayate, that material nature is acting. But then, if we say material nature is the actor, material nature is not also the only actor. This is not the only actor, because it's also is acting and actor. It's action. That reminds me of another story in the Mahabharata. There's a story of one Brahmana lady, old Brahmana lady. A Brahmana lady, I said the story some time back. This Brahmana lady, forgetting her name now, she had only one son. She has lost her husband. And she was practicing austerity. She was living in the forest. And she has only one son. And the only one son was bitten by a snake and died. But coincidentally, an hunter was passing by. He saw the action of the snake. And first, he went to the mother of the son, said, your son is dead. And was waiting to see the reaction of the Brahmana lady. Arundhati, thank you very much. He said, please tell me. I need your permission, because you are the one that is being bereaved. You are the one that's been offended. Your son has been killed by this snake. Give me your permission. I want to act on your behalf. I want to kill this snake as a vengeance, as a repercussion for killing your son, only son. And the Brahmana lady said, no, don't worry. Whatever happens by the faith. Just like Mother, the personified religion is saying here. Although he means that this is the culprit who has endeavored in cutting his three legs, but he didn't want to identify. So the Brahmana lady said, no, please. Don't do anything. Let it be. The hunter said that I cannot. I will not agree. You are a Brahmana. Because you're a Brahmana, you can forgive. I'm an hunter. I don't care. For me, my duty is to award punishment for an offender. This snake I must kill. And because that time they have powers, so he was able to trace the snake. And he caught hold of the snake. When he caught hold of the snake, and he said, yes, you are a great offender. Although the Brahmana lady has forgiven you, but me, because it's my duty as it is, I will not leave you, let you be. I must kill you. And the snake spoke. He said, why do you want to kill an innocent person? I'm only an errand, I'm only a messenger who has been sent to engage in an activity. And who is me to disobey the order of one who has sent me a message? And he mentioned, okay, if you are not the culprit, so who has sent you? He said, it's Yamaraj. Yamaraj told me to kill the boy. Okay, then Yamaraj is in trouble today. Then he called him, both Yamaraj, please come around. This snake is lying against you. He said, you are the one that sent him to kill this young Brahmana boy. He said, yes, I did that. So then you deserve to be punished. He said, but I cannot be punished. I should not be punished because this is not I'm only doing my duty. I said, who then is the culprit? If you are dead personified and you are the one that has killed, send them the snake to kill the boy. And you have admitted that you are the one that sent you. So who is the cause? Then he said, it is destiny. The destiny of the bird. So what is the cause of the destiny? His karma, his previous activities. Because of his life. It's a long story. I didn't want to debate too much. I just want to mention that story. I know most of us have had this story several times. So the intricacies of action and inaction, dharma, religious principles, is only known by who? By one who is a devotee of the Lord. And that is why Krishna said in the Bhagavad-gita chapter 18, text number 9, I think that's text number 19. Lord Krishna told Arjuna, in chapter, yes, I think chapter 18, text number 19. I can't remember the verse of. If you can help us, sorry, bring that verse. That's chapter 9, 18, text number. No, 15, sorry, 15, 19. It's Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, text number 19. That should be the verse, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, that is the verse. Yomam evam asamudo janati purushottamam sasarva vid bhajatimam sarva bhavena bharata. Lord Krishna, he told Arjuna, whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of God without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata. So therefore, just like the personification of Dharma here is doing, one who knows the truth in truth, he simply surrenders to Krishna. Because what? Krishna knows everything. As he himself has proclaimed, Am Sarvasya Prabhava, Mata Sarva Prabhatate, Iti Matu Bhajantimam Buddha Bhava Samam Buddha Bhagavad 10:8. He said, and this know of everything. Everything. Am Sarvasya Prabhava, and the source of everything, everything is emanating from me. This is knowledge. One who knows this very well, he does not identify an actor. Although he knows that there are so many actors, he can see so many actors, but he doesn't act because he knows that beyond activity is one person. Thank you very much. So that's what Krishna said. He is the source of everything. So one who knows like this, one who has this understanding, he does not, when something happens to him, he responds just like Dharma personified is responding here. He explains. Although he knows, but he does not put blame on anyone because he knows that ultimately, Lord Krishna. But then, if one knows like this, let us look into another direction. If we know like this, and then we agreed that yes, Lord Krishna is behind everything, should we then silently This is Krishna's activity. So yes, we should not do anything. No. We have to act. And that is what the first verse I quoted said. One has to know what is action, what is inaction, and what is inaccessible action, like I said in chapter 4, that's number 17. One has to understand this. And how do one know this? For one to know this is the purpose of Krishna consciousness. In the purpose of 1858, Prabhupada explained that the one who is in conditions, the conditioned soul in this material world does not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. So for one to know what is to be done, then one should simply surrender himself to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This Rasta was fortunate. He could ask Lord Krishna directly, but you and I doesn't have Krishna directly in our lives. Even though Krishna is present in our lives, but we do not have the opportunity to talk to him directly because we are conditioned by the three modes of material nature, having taken this material body. So what to do? So what to do is to what? Is to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is what Krishna says in the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharma Parityaja. But how do one do Sarva Dharma Parityaja? Lord Krishna said, how to do that? In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna has given. Bhakti-mam, Abhijananti, Yavanya Shasmitapata, Tato Tatwato Gyatam, Vishatitada. The way to do Sarva Dharma is to engage in bhakti. But then how do one engage in bhakti? Mamma Baba Ma Bhakti, Mam Yaji, Mam Namasku, Mam Ibasias, Patijano, Priyosime. So there is no becloudness in the process of Krishna consciousness. If anyone in the process of Krishna consciousness, for any reason, is confused, it is as a result of not being fully engaged in Krishna consciousness. For one who is engaged in Krishna consciousness, there is not any kind of bewilderment because everything is revealed in Krishna consciousness. And that is what Srila Prabhupada is doing in the purport of this verse. Prabhupada is giving us that we should understand. That's what Prabhupada kept on asking questions. That the material energy is always provoking doubts about the supreme authority of the Lord. The personality of religion knew perfectly well that nothing can take place without the sanction of the supreme personality of Godhead. And that is paraphrasing Bhagavad Gita chapter 7, text number 8, where Lord Krishna told Arjuna that I'm the taste of the water, I'm the ability in man. A devotee knows. So Dharma personified, he knows. And here she's expressing that. So Prabhupada explained, a devotee knows, a person in Krishna consciousness knows that Krishna is the ultimate. Behind every activity. So he does not identify any other person. But then he does not stay in action. So the summary of the whole of this discussion is that we should understand that there is no other means of being able to free from the entanglement of the complexity that life poses before us than to engage in Krishna consciousness. And Krishna consciousness is so simple. All it requires is what? All it requires is for us to take shelter of the bona fide child. When we look at the material worldview, when we take a material worldview or materialistic worldview of what is happening in the world, we see so many inequalities. We see so many imbalances in nature. And if one does not take this bhakti path or this process of understanding, there is tendencies. We see somebody is born blind, somebody is born with 2 eyes, somebody is born rich, somebody is born poor. And we ask ourselves, what is the cause of all of this? Sometimes people say it is destiny. And we say, when ask, who is the cause of this destiny? We say it's God. And if one takes that kind of a Western perception of things, then one may be tempted to start asking, is God partial? Or are there other reasons why somebody is born blind, somebody is born with 2 eyes? Why somebody is born into poverty, somebody is born into worldliness? Why somebody is born with deformity, one person is born ill and healthy? And the other thing that we see in life is that for one to be able to understand things, one has to accept this understanding of the knowledge of karma. And this karma, even our Western philosophy has an aspect of it in the Newton's law. Newton's law says that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. But that is not perfect, because if we say that, if we look at it from our immediate perception of understanding, then one can start asking, so if action produces a reaction and a man is engaging in pious activity, but then he's suffering, so what could be the cause of his suffering? The popular question, why does bad thing happens to good people? One can only understand this when one understands the intricacies of law of karma as given by the Vedic, by the acharyas, based on the Vedic scriptures. So our devotional life will be sublime and full of bliss when we understand this basic understanding of Krishna consciousness, even in our devotional day-to-day practice. That is the summary of what this text is teaching us. I know that it's a topical discourse, so I will want to stop here so that we can have opportunity to have more interactions and discussions on the topic. But in summary, just to round up, we started by explaining that, as stated in this verse, Lord Krishna has already established that in Bhagavad Gita, that the intricacies of action and inactions are very difficult to understand. And we explained that for one to understand the intricacies of this action and inaction, one has to understand the Vedic perception of things, which is based on spirituality. And that is centered around the knowledge of karma and reincarnation. Because this class is a very brief one, we cannot go into the elaborate discussion about these two topics. But we give a few two stories explaining how it is karma that explains some of the actions and inactions that we see that happens in our day-to-day life experience. And we concluded by saying that for one to be able to get himself free from this cycle of karma, one has to take to the right path. And what is that right path? By taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in devotional service. And when one does that, then one is become free. And then we summarize that on this verse quoted in chapter 18, that one will understand and know this and engage in these activities becomes free from the intricacies of action and inaction. Hare Krishna. So,
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, His Grace, Salika Prabhu. This was a very fired up class. Boy. So, dear devotees, if anyone has a question, comment, please indicate that by using the hand emoji to ask your question or make your comment. Probably I have a few minutes to have your association. I will have to run out. But before I do that, if I may ask one question, and that is, Krishna is telling us that there are 5 factors involved in every action that takes place. But ultimately, he, Krishna, is the doer. Well, if Krishna is the ultimate doer, then why would the 11 entities be blamed for certain bad actions like our karma inaction, v karma, horrible actions, bad actions. Why would the loving entity be punished, since the loving entity is not the ultimate doer? Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Professor Adi. Beautiful question. I anticipated this question. If Krishna is the ultimate doer, so then why are we punished for the wrongdoings? And the answer is very simple. Because Krishna does not decide what actions we engage in. Krishna simply permits. So the very scriptures explain to us. In another place it is explained. When we go further in that in that same chapter that I quoted, in text number 18, 19, and 20. And Lord Krishna explained that knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower are the three factors that motivate action. The sense is the work, and the doer are the three constituents of action. According to the three different modes of material nature, there are three kinds of knowledge: action and performer of action. And Krishna told that you hear this from me. Then he went further, he said that knowledge by which one is undivided, spiritual nature is seen in all living entities. True, though they are divided into innumerable forms, you should understand to be in the mode of goodness. So in other words, what this verse is explaining is that our actions are not just permitted. Krishna is the ultimate permitter, but it does not instigate, it does not choose for us. When we hear that the living entity has a minute independence, the minute independence is that we have the ability to choose what we want. Just like the story I gave, this Dhritarashtra in his previous life, he took the choice based on the mode that was under the influence, anger, ignorance, to exact that action. And Krishna permits him. If Krishna does not permit him, he cannot do it. But Krishna does not interfere. Just like the story that was given by you yesterday. Krishna is the ultimate permitter of all activities, but he simply witnesses our activities and he gives permission for it to happen. But he also allows it to happen according to circumstances that does not diminish his personality as the supreme controller of all activities. So the living entity does not have the capacity to change the past. It can see the present, but it does not know the future. But Lord Krishna knows the past, the present, and the future. So therefore, Lord Krishna is simply witnesses and allows the living entity. So when we say that the living entity has a minute independence, the living entity has the ability to choose. And like there's a debate that coined this, in the ABCD of life, the living entity has the choice between birth and death in our acceptance of the material body, which is A, the birth, which brings us into the body, and death, which is the B. In between this, we have choice. The living entity has the choice to act in a particular way or not in a particular way. And that is what is called desire. So according to our desire, and that is what Krishna told Arjuna in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text number 62. He said, as the living entity meditates on the object of the senses, it develops desire for them. And when it develops desire for them, other emotions start from there. So it is the desire of the living entity that the Lord permits. The Lord does not dictate the desire for the living entity. And that is what is called the primary cause. The middle cause of activity is material nature, who is acting under the influence of the instructions of the Supreme Lord. So there are three causes of action when it's summarized. The living entity by its desire, the material nature who makes it happen, and the Supreme Personality of God that permits it. And that's what Krishna said. And I think I quoted the verse of verse 7, 8 of Bhagavad Gita. So, and in that same chapter 7, And there's a very beautiful verse which explains how we get into the mess that we find ourselves in the material world. When Isha Krishna is talking about Isha Drisha, that by his desire and his illusion, deliverance comes into this experience. So our experience is not it's not initiated by the Lord. We are the initiating cause. Material nature is the activating cause, and Krishna is the permitting cause of all activities. So in the elaborate explanation of those 5 actions, Krishna permits is ultimately because everything still rests on him. Just like when we buy a car, we have the ability to kick the car and start it and move it as we like. But the workings of the car is designed by the manufacturer of the car. So in the same way, Krishna designs everything, but it allows us to use it as we want. Just like the manufacturer of the cars allows us to use the car as we want. We can drive the car and drive one car for 20 years without getting bad. But we can drive it in one day and run into the beach and we finish it. It's all our choice. But the designer knows what he has done in there. So it's the same thing Krishna does. I don't know whether that answers the question.
Yes, it does. It does answer my question. But this is like back and forth, because now as parents, we know that sometimes when our children ask us for something and we know it's going to hurt them, we do not give it to them. No, but Krishna sometimes will give it to us, even when he knows it's going to hurt us. Whereas in other instances, when we ask for something which is going to hurt us and Krishna knows it's going to hurt us, he doesn't give to us. Like in the case of Arjun, there were so many things Arjun did that he should have suffered, but Krishna intervened. But if it were me, probably Krishna would not intervene.
Krishna is always intervening. The only thing is that Krishna, Arjun's difference between me and you is that Arjun listens to Krishna, but most often times we don't listen. And like the second time, when the father and the mother says, stop this, and he doesn't want to stop, after some time, the mother says, okay, go ahead and do it. And when he runs to the problem, the mother still comes and saves the child, but he allows him to experience what he's trying to stop. So in most of the cases, the pure devotees, when it's not like they don't also act, but when they act, when they listen to the voice of Krishna, and Krishna says, go like this, they go like that. Krishna says, go like that. So even when they wanted to do something, but when they become too stubborn, Krishna says, okay, go ahead. So just like when Arjun, the story you give Arjun and what's his name? They are daughter. Krishna didn't say he shouldn't go. Krishna said, don't do that. He didn't ask for Krishna's guidance. He just went ahead out of ego. He just went ahead, boom. If this we are very fond of doing that. This is in the conditional nature. That is what Prabhupada is saying in the purpose, according to the influence of the modes of nature. That is manifesting according to the influence of the material nature. That's what is called Maya Prakriti, the influence of Maya, material nature. So we get covered by this, having taken this material conditional body. And when we get in that situation, we oftentimes forget that we are not the ultimate controller. So we just want to make things happen the way we want it. And then Krishna said, okay, no problem, go through it. And when we run into he's still the one that will come and save us, but he wants us to have experience. So in the other words, Krishna doesn't want us to suffer. It's just that sometimes also he wants us to learn in such a way that we don't have to make the mistake again and again.
Well, thank you. You've magnetized me. I should have been out of here, but I'm still here. It's so sad I have to leave, but thank you so much, Prabhuji. And thank you, devotees. I'll see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Please continue to ask your questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Minister Linda, thank you very much for the comments in the chat room. Madam I'll come to you, but let's read Madam Mr. Vinda's comment. Okay, it's a brilliant question, brilliant answer. Thank you, Mother. He said, brilliant. The aspect of free will is what makes everything karmic. we can choose to do what should or should not be done, making deeper aspects of spirituality essential in understanding Krishna rather, along with what they desire, like dislike, and are either engaged or saddened. And the shift of it. Thank you very much for that comment, Madam Chavinda. Hare Krishna. Nandini Dhanam Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat, Pranam, so glory to assembly devotees, so glory to devotees, so glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. So, Prabhu, actually, I have two questions. I think I have this question before, and both speakers gave me the same answer. But based on what we are treating, I have to ask this question and seek for your realization. See, in yesterday's report, somewhere Srila Prabhupada said the identifier is equally the same as the mischief monger. So as a movement, point in time, you see, when some of the devotees, one way or the other, maybe I may tell me if they misbehave, we try to expel them from the movement. Krishna is the goal. Krishna is benefiting everybody. So at that point in time, now that we are treating this, that Krishna is the benefactor, actually he is the one doing everything. Why then do we give the answer just to say the person is in a Maya? That is what it is. That such a person have to be expelled from the movement. I don't know if my question is clear. Since Krishna is the one doing everything, and already I'm in Maya, so I'm supposed to stay there so that you will cure me from the Maya in which I am. But you people are now leaving me, pushing me to the Maya now. So I need a clarification here. Then before I'll ask my second question. I don't know if my question is clear.
It's very clear. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Yeah, your question is very justifiable. Just like we said before, for God to be understand, for one to understand God, one has to understand the subject matter of karma. In our life experience, we train those who are under us by the rod of reward and punishment. Right? Because the material world is a place of duality. And because it's a place of duality, for it to be organized, there must be reward and punishment. And for that to be able to be in place, so there must be a system in place that rewards those who does good, and a process that punishes those who does good. If not, there will not be organization. There will not be stability. There will not be sanity. It becomes a jungle. And the Lord does not want us to live in a jungle experience. So therefore, the Lord gives the Vedic scriptures. The whole purpose of the Vedic scriptures is what? For guidance. As they say, when there is no law, there is no offense. If your child wakes up in the morning, he has slept and wake up already and carry his private part and goes to the pot of soup and start peeing inside. I'm sure what your reactions will be. Because it's not sleeping now, it's not in ignorance of sleep. But he has woken up, understand, he went to the kitchen and opened the pot of soup and start peeing inside. You spank the child because he said this child is being wicked. So, but if the child says, but I don't know that it's bad. I saw that we used to pee inside some pot, inside the bedroom. So I also pee inside this pot. Because he doesn't know. So for us to be able to justify sanity, there must be rules and regulations. That's what makes the completeness of the material world. When Lord Krishna says this material world is complete in its creation, part of the completeness of the Lord creation of the material world is that there is a principle that guides, which is in the form of the Vedas. So when there is a law, there must be what? A guidance to follow the law or disobey the law. So if someone is in our movement, if somebody eats meat while as he has not taken initiation and is coming to the temple, do we send him away? No. But once someone is in the devotee, he has stayed in the process of devotions of 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, initiation, first initiation, second initiation, and is going to the brutal. Do we say, okay, no problem, we should leave him? No, we'll ask him, Prabhu, this thing you're doing, it's not right. You know that. Why are you doing it? If he is actually in the mood of a devotee, even if it's an occasional fall down, he will stop immediately. But if he does not stop, then it means that he was intentionally doing that. That means it's not fit for this environment. So that is the only reason why a devotee will be suspended. Of course, I know that sometimes we've seen that this process is being abused, that someone in the mood of being intoxicated by position and power misuse the law or the principles that guides. But the fact that somebody misuses the law or the principles that guides sanity does not remove the fact that there is a need for principle or law in a society. So in our society, like we give an example, if somebody is doing something wrong and he has been given caution 1, 2, 3 times, our sending him out is not because we want to send him into Maya, but we also have to protect those who are inside, because if you don't create a law and order, then you will discourage. You create a discouragement for those who are inside, who are trying. And let me give this as an example to summarize my answer on this question. Let's assume that you are a teacher, and a teacher in a class come to the class and said, today, students, we are going to have an examination today. The examination is 5 questions, and there are 50 marks for these 5 questions. And anyone who passes the question very nicely will get 50 marks. And if someone doesn't even write the question or he doesn't attend the class, he still gets the 50 marks. Will those who are serious to study, will they study? No. So to reward those who are endeavoring and to chastise those who are not, so there is always a need to put in place some kind of form of discipline. But discipline is not meant to kill, but to correct. So yes, sometimes, yes, devotees or aspiring devotees are sent out of the temples, not because they are being hated or something in that manner, but it's for their own good and for the good of those who are in the monastery. I hope that answers the question for you.
Yes, thank you. Second question to have to do with yesterday's report as well again.
Okay.
Whereby Prabhupada talks about Jesus Christ, that he was crucified, but he was rather praying for such people that our Father should forgive them because they don't know what they are doing. So my question is, at what point can this punishment we are talking about to be given? Because the same Jesus Christ that was crucified, that he couldn't say anything, according to Bible, the same Jesus Christ went to a synagogue, took a cane, and we people who are changing money. So my question is, at what point do we have to give someone punishment?
Thank you very much for this beautiful question. At what point do we have to punish someone? Again, the answer is very straightforward. The scripture, that is why in the course of the discussion we mentioned that one has to understand that ultimately, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, the controller, the permitter, the ultimate decider of everything. And if we have that understanding, then the only same thing to do is to listen to the voice of Krishna. And we have no limitation of instructions on when and when not to act in a particular way. The scriptures are given everything. So if someone is engaging in a particular activity that is against the principles of godliness, you gave a very nice example. For those people who are in the synagogue, they are not laymen. They were Pharisees and the Sadducees. They know the scriptures, but yet they are overtly disobeying that. So he chastises them. But the same Jesus Christ, while he was on the cross, when he's being nailed to the cross, one sinner was telling him, see, he called himself a saintly man, but yes, see him, he's nailed along beside with us here, who are thieves. Yes, we know that we are thieves, but see him. What is the good in his goodness? He was mocking. But the other one says, oh, what are you doing? Even after being nailed to the cross, you are about to die, still you have not repented. Yes, we know that we are suffering and sick, but this man was innocent. He is actually innocent. So you should empathize with him. And the Bible story tells us that Jesus Christ said that for you, because you have repented, today you will be with me in my Father's kingdom. So the moment that one becomes surrendered or repentant, one gets the shelter of the Supreme Personality of God. And that is why that controversial verse, where 9:30, where Krishna says that, Samoham, I'm not partial to anyone. I'm not in any way partial. But one who surrenders to me is my devotee. Krishna says that. So the point at which one chastises or blesses someone is determined by the scriptures. And because scriptures are given by God, so it is authoritative. So if one whimsically, and that's why Prabhupada often quoted that Bhagavatam 6th canto chapter 3, I think verse number 19, the chapter 2, Bhagavad Pranitam, the principles of religion or dharma is given by God himself, Krishna. So one has to study the Vedas under the guidance of those who know. And why is it important to study under the guidance of someone who knows? Because they have realized, that is what Krishna says. They have not just studied, though they have practiced. And by their practice and studying, they have become realized. And because they are realized, they can also teach somebody that same thing. In our modern day educational system, the challenge, the divorce between education and learning is as a result of the fact that those who claim to be the teachers themselves have not learned. They have been educated, but they have not learned. And because they have not learned, they are unable to impart. So for one to be able to impart, one must first learn. And when he learns, then he can be able to impart. So the point at which one chastises or praises someone must be based on the principles of the scriptures as given by the Supreme Personality of God himself. And there are several scriptures for different class of persons. Just like there are different textbooks for English for students in the kindergarten, the secondary school, in the university, in the post-university. They are all English books. Start talking about the subject matter of English, but at different level. So the fact that the scriptures also gives different levels of instruction on same subject matter does not defeat the sanctity of those scriptures. It's just that it is given to students according to their own different levels of understanding where they are. So because sometimes someone will say that the question is, someone asks a question, but then if the scriptures is the basis for giving justice and corrections, So then which scriptures are we going to accept? So you said according to the level of the person. If the person is in the lowest mode of ignorance, yeah, you can judge him based on that principles of level of his consciousness. If someone is on the middle class, based on their level, you can administer the particular principles of religion. I hope that answers your question for you.
Sure. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Everyone, brother, please.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
very much for the class. All glories to all the devotees. Just a little contribution to Anandini question. I mean, like you rightly mentioned, Jesus Christ was chastising, people in the synagogue. But then when he was being crucified, he prayed, Father, forgive them. So according to Vedic Siddhanta, he was acting like a perfect Vaishnava. A Vaishnava will not defend himself, but is ready to take up arms when he sees the Lord's property being misused or devotees being abused. So a Vaishnava never reacts to any injustice or abuse done to himself. He accepts it as Krishna's mercy. But that same Vaishnava becomes like a tiger when he sees either Krishna or pure devotee of Krishna or Krishna's property being misused. So that's exactly what Jesus Christ did. And that is the, like you were asking, at what point should one make the difference or what to punish? So Jesus Christ was, establishing order because he came, one of the things he said, I have not come to destroy the law, abolish the law, but to modify. So he was trying to modify things to make, establish principles of religion. So he acted in that position. But when he became the object of attack, he simply gave up and surrendered to Krishna. That is what devotees do normally. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the contribution. Thank you. So are there any questions or comments, contributions? Arisha Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Please unmute.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Salika Prabhu, and
Hare
all
Krishna,
assembled
Prabhu.
devotees. Accept my
Hare-
obeisances.
Okay.
I just want to give just a little bit of a contribution to when you were during your lecture, you were talking about how karma is so intricate and that is so bewildering, that law of karma. And that devotees, we are protected because we have some understanding of this law. Yeah, and whoever doesn't understand this law of karma, it becomes very bewildering, even to the extent that you begin at a certain point, if you are not lucky, you begin to doubt the supremacy of the law. So like a typical example is the doubt that the disciples of Jesus had. Like if in Matthew chapter 17 from verse 10 to 15, the disciples asked Jesus that, why is it that the prophets have prophesied that Elijah must first come, but he has not come, and you have come. And Jesus answered unto them. The reason why they asked that question was that Jesus went to the mountain with James, John, and Peter, and there was a transfiguration. He saw three people transfigured. Moses transfigured, Jesus himself transfigured, and Elijah also transfigured. And so they saw Elijah there. And so they were saying, when they were coming down, then they asked that question. Why is it that the prophet says Elijah must first come, but he has not come and you have come? And Jesus said, verily I say unto you, Elijah has already come, but you have done to him all that you listed. You did not recognize him. So are you going to do the same thing to me? Then the disciples understood that he was talking to them about John the Baptist. This is the disciples' conception when he said that. But Jesus himself confirmed that, because there is a prophecy in Malachi chapter 4, verse 5 and 6. There is a prophecy that Elijah must first come before the advent of Jesus, of Christ. And so Jesus confirmed that prophecy in Matthew chapter 11 from verse 10 to 15. He says, no man has been born out of the womb of a woman as great as John, but he who is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than John. And until the time of John, the kingdom of heaven suffered violence. And if you want to accept it, if you want to accept the prophecy, John is Elijah, whose coming was predicted. He that has ears to hear, let him hear. Because of course, people will not understand, people will not accept it. So after he said that, he said, he that has ears to hear, let him hear. And why would Elijah have to come? Because we know Elijah was a great prophet of the Lord. So why would Elijah have to reincarnate? Because we know the pure devotees, they only incarnate to do the work of the Lord. And sometimes they just come to help the Lord in his pastime. But Elijah came as John and he suffered tremendously. Why did that happen? And so if we go back to 1 Kings chapter 18 from verse 35, then the reason is given. Elijah had a competition with the Baal worshippers. He prayed for fire to come from the skies and consume the sacrificial arena. And after he defeated the Baal worshippers, he gathered them. He grabbed all of them. He did not preach to them to, make them repent. He tied them up, all the Baal worshippers. He tied them up, took them to the valley Kishon, the Kishon Valley, and slaughtered them. He cut off their heads. And because he cut off their heads, he has to come again to prepare for it. So when he came as John, the Herod's daughter was also having a party, and the Herod asked her, what do you need? Ask me and I'll give it to you. She said, I need the head of John. And John's head was cut and put on a plate for her for no reason. And she regretted after that for asking for John's head. So this intricate issue of karma, we cannot escape it. And that's why when we understand this concept of karma, then we will learn how to behave properly. So that at least if we couldn't control our past, at least our future, we will have some solace, some good fortune in our future. And that's why it's very important that we understand this concept of karma, because it works. It works. It's not a matter of it works.
Oh, not only that it works, but it also explains everything.
It explains everything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for that beautiful quotations from the Bible. I'm sure if any of the Christian brothers and sisters are hearing this, they will learn a whole lot. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the references and comments. So, any other questions, comments? Actually, no one can explain the intricacies of action and inaction without understanding the law of karma and reincarnation. It explains everything. And I remember very vividly that my personal life experience in the devotional service was brought about as a result of trying to understand the karma of a particular experience that I had. So anyone who is able to come to learn these intricacies of karma, he can answer everything. He can understand everything. And that's what beauty the very scriptures have given to us. Adishaka Prabhu, go ahead. Adishaka Prabhu, are you trying to say something?
Oh, no. Did I raise my hand again? No.
No, okay, yeah. Okay. While I was speaking, I still saw your hand because I thought I lowered the hand before. Okay. So thank you very much. That's what I stopped. So any other question or comments or contributions with regards to this topic or outside of this topic?
Yeah, yeah, Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Salika.
Yes, Prabhu, I'm hearing.
Yeah, yeah. And the other, during the lecture, you were answering one question and we were talking about, you were even giving the example of, what do we call it? Newton's law of
Yeah.
that there, for every action, there is equal and opposite reaction. And that someone might ask that, why does good thing happen to bad people? And why does bad things happen to good people? And in one lecture that Sri Krishna Prabhu was giving one time, he was explaining why that happens. And he used the example of the farmer. And he said, if two farmers, somebody visited two farmers. In the first year when he went, he saw that farmer A was very serious about his farming, and he produced very good grains. So after that season, he put his grains in his silo. But farmer B was lazy. He did not toil much. And so his yield was very bad. His grains, the maize he raised was very bad. And he also harvested and put it in his silo. Now, that year, no buyer was there. So the following year, farmer A, who was serious last year, this time became very lazy. And so the grains that he was producing was bad grains. And so he added it to his silo. He put it in the silo. And farmer B, because he had a very bad yield the previous year, this year he was serious and he yielded good seeds. And this was the time that the buyer saw them putting it in their silo. So automatically the buyer knew that farmer A doesn't have good grains, but farmer B has good grains. So he decided to go to farmer B to buy the grains from. And you know the silo, when you open the silo, it's open from the bottom. So when farmer B opened the silo, all the grains that was coming out was bad grains. So the buyer was surprised. Why is this thing happening? Nature is not fair. He went to farmer A. Farmer A opened his silo, and all the grains that were coming was good grains. So he was confused. This guy put bad grains in his silo. This one put good grains in his silo, and the opposite is coming out. Simply because he did not know what type of grains they put in the previous year. So similarly, the karma, like Krishna Prabhu was explaining, that is what happens. Sometimes because someone has sown some bad deeds, and it's time for him to yield the results now. Even though this time he's trying to be good, but because he's yielding the old reactions, he's suffering. Whereas another person, he's being bad today, but because previously he has sown good seeds, he's now yielding the good seeds. And so you see him as a very bad person, but he will still be enjoying good fruits because we didn't know what he has sown before. So we conclude that good things are happening to the bad person and bad things are happening to the good person. So I just wanted to chip in. When Guru Dev gave that example, it was like, wow.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. The story of the silos and the farmers is very explicit. And I actually was going to give a different version of that while I was speaking, because there's another explanation of the silos and farmers example, that to explain why good things or bad things happen to good people or good things happen to the bad people. That if one is a farmer, and we all know the silos is open from the down, but grains are poured from the top. So if in 3 years, a farmer, in the first year, he plants and he has a very good seed, he pours it in there. The second year, he pours another good seed. The third year, he pours a bad seed. Fourth year, he pours a bad seed. And he continuously pours the bad seed up to the 5-6 years. In the 7th year, then there is a famine. And he has to go to the reserve. And then for the last 3-4 years, he has been putting the bad seed. But when he opened the silo, then he could see, oh, although he has put a bad seed in the last 5 years, but when he opens the silo from the bottom where he normally has to open, he's getting good seed coming out. And someone wonders, oh, why? Why is this man getting so much of good seed? Because in the last 7 years, he has put, in the last 7 and 6 years ago, he has put a good seed. So he's taking that. And in the Nectar of Devotion, Srila Rupa Goswami he nicely explained that also in a philosophical way, that our karma are in the seed form. And just like the seed, when they put the seed into the sand for a corn, in 3 months, we are already eating the fruit of the corn. But in the if you want to plant a cashew, for an example, you won't get the result in 1 year. So our action and reactions are all based like that. They are in the kind of a seed format. If you want to plant a cassava and you plant you want to plant a banyan tree, you can put the seed in the same time, but they won't produce at the same time. And also there is another story about the pregnancy of the elephant and the pig. The elephant and the pig are very, very good friends. And they became pregnant at the same time. And then the pig, after 3 months, he has already produced so many children. The second year, after some few months, it became pregnant again. The third time, the fourth time, then he started asking the question, were you lying to me or something? Sometimes last year you told me you were pregnant, and we took pregnancy at the same time. We were both joyous, but I've given birth to so many piglets, more than 3 times now. So you're still pregnant. What is happening? And the elephant answered, because what you carry inside you and what I carry inside of myself is different. So we know the baby elephant and what a piglet is the difference. So in the same way, whatever we are experiencing is what we carry inside ourselves, not what we actually carry from our previous life to enter into this body. That's what determines what we experience. So that is why Bhagavad Gita advises us that we should be conscious about our activities, because they will give us a kind of a reaction in our next bodies. So whatever we are experiencing now, and that's what we're saying, that the beauty of the very scriptures is that it gives us so much of knowledge that knowing this knowledge, we don't have to suffer any longer, because at least we understand. We can also, the most important question is that when we go through these experiences, what should be our mood? Does it make us to leave the path of bhakti? There are so many devotees who have left the movement, just not because they don't like devotional service, but because sometimes the challenges becomes too difficult, and they wonder, oh, what is this? Personality like Srila Prabhupada doesn't have to suffer so much for him to establish Krishna consciousness, because it's a Nitya Siddha. But to show us in the practical terms, the Lord comes down and sometimes sends his devotees. And we've given an example of Jesus Christ, and Prabhupada is also referring to him in the purport of yesterday. They don't have to go through all of that, but they also they enact that past tense for us to see that this is the practicality of how things work. So thank you very much for that comment. It's a deep one. Hare Krishna. So any last comments? Contributions or comments before we leave here? Mother there. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Please unmute. Yeah, you muted again. Please can you unmute? Yeah, Mother.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear
Mother.
me?
Yes,
Oh, thank you. So my question / comment is, because there's an aspect of free will, we're making decisions at every moment. Is it still the same karmic balance when we have the will to choose whether or not we participate in someone's karma in a negative or positive aspect? So for example, if in a past life someone was attacked or someone did something that was unkind to someone else, in the next lifetime, that person can choose whether or not they participate in a way that continues that karma or stops it for themselves.
I didn't get the question. Can you repeat the last one?
So the question is, because of the aspect of free will, doesn't that change the potentiality of everything just being one way? The negative karma that you have is developed by your bad actions. But at any moment, you have the free will given by Krishna to do that bad action or not. So in the next lifetime, I'm the person that is the attacker becomes attacked.
Mm-hmm.
And then the person that has been attacked has the choice next lifetime to either attack them again or not. So it's flowing, it's linear. We can stop it. And so my understanding is, because we are aspiring to be Vaishnavas, we have these opportunities to chant, to hear. But again, it's a choice. But we get the medicine, we get the ointment of how to slow the karmic wheel down. But again, it's still choice. But it continues on because we choose not to. We hear the instructions, but we don't choose necessarily to take it when we're outside of the temple. Is it following us in everything we do, or as much as possible? Are we thinking of Krishna? So the karmic wheel can slow down by the mercy of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which allows us to think about what we're doing before we do it. But do we take that step that is appropriate through education? Can we slow the karmic cycle? You're again fructifying, receiving the negative aspects of your karma.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mother. That is why it is said that we're product of what we know. As long as one is in ignorance, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, this ocean of samsara, repeated birth and death, will continue, life after life, for unlimited lifetimes. And that's why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that Brahmananda Brahmiti Kurma Bhagavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasthadi 5 lakh that when one, after having gone through this cycle for billions and billions and billions of years, if one becomes fortunate, then he comes in contact with the bhakta. Then he starts planting the seed of bhakti. He starts engaging in the process of bhakti by this watering the seed of bhakti given by the contact with the pure devotee of the Lord. So now when one starts engaging in those activities, he no longer under his own control any longer. Krishna takes control. And that is what we do when we take shelter of the bona fide spiritual master. And that's why it is said it is critical that When we take to the path of spirituality, it is very important that one must accept a bona fide representative of God. Because when we take the representative of God, because in the will of karma, and I think Gurudev gave one beautiful example. He said we should imagine that we're using one of the strongest rope that we know in existence is the marine rope. He said, look at marine rope, for an example, and then you're tied with eight times with a marine rope. Just with being tied with one marine rope, you know how difficult it could be to loosen oneself. But eight marine rope is being used to tying us. So that is what this material body is like. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. So we're securely tied with these 8 ropes of the gross element of material nature. So there is no way, there is no means of freeing ourselves from this conditional situation. So we need someone who is not tied to untie us. In other words, what I'm saying is that we can free ourselves from these intricacies of karma. It is not possible by our own efforts. Even when we try to chant, it is not possible. If not, one could just say the holy name and chant and become liberated. Yes, one can chant. You get some beautiful message. That's what also Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita 7:28. Yesham tu anta gita papa. Get a man, pun ya karmana. Take dodwa venimuka bajantima vidaveta. That when we continuously engage in such pious activities, we start building up. But when that pious activity becomes matured, then one becomes fortunate. It means a pure devotee of God. And the process of bhakti starts. And when one sticks to that process of bhakti, from Shraddha, then it comes to Bhajana Kriya. Bhajana Kriya is when you accept the spiritual master. Shraddha is when you are associating. And Sadhu Sangha, then you come to Shraddha. From Sadhu Sangha, you come to Shraddha. When you come to Shraddha, you develop faith. And when that faith develops, you do what? Bhajana Kriya. Bhajana Kriya cannot happen unless you take initiation. And so when we take initiation, then the potency, the covering, the shelter of the bona fide representative of God puts its umbrella upon us. And our 8 difficult material ropes of these gross material elements start losing gradually. Then when we continue losing that, after a long period of time, if we do not deviate, then what happens? We get to Nishta, we become steady. Still, there is still a long way to go. We become steady, we continuously do this. Then what comes? Another naivety. Another naivety comes. Then those mode, those mentality, those emotions that makes us to act and react start dropping. Because naturally, no one can stand by when he's being abused and doesn't want to react. It is not natural for the conditioned soul. An average conditioned soul wants to react. But what makes us not to be able to react is the fruit of bhakti that we develop by the cultivation of the process of devotional service, by chanting, by associating with the pure devotees, by becoming faithful, by taking the holy name, by chanting, we start dropping those simple activities, those emotions that makes us to want to revenge, to want to react, to want to continue the cycle of samsara. And when that happens, we come to Nishta, then we start tasting. And then from there on, we start experiencing freedom. That is when our path to becoming free from the ocean of samsara. That's why Krishna himself didn't mean what? By stating it very clearly. It is very intricate. And Prabhupada in the purpose said that unless one is in this process of Krishna consciousness, it is not possible for him to know what is action in action. And what is action that is being talked about? That action is what? Taken to the association of devotees. That is the first action. When we are Sadhu Sangha, and that is why it's constantly being emphasized in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Unless we start with Sadhu Sangha, and then when we start with Sadhu Sangha, there's more beautiful Sadhu Sangha than listening and hearing Bhagavatam, speaking Bhagavatam, because it brings what? It brings an accelerated development in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. I hope it answers your question, Mataji. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that beautiful contribution, Madam Rita Brinda. So, any last comment from Ms. Grace? Harishakra Prabhu, please unmute.
Hare Krishna, Salika.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to buttress the point that you just gave about the question Madam Vitravindra was asked, Gurudev also explained the different forms of karma. And he explains that the karma come in the stages like someone shooting arrows. And he says the arrows that has already been shot, it cannot be stopped. But the arrows that is now in the bow that has not yet been shot, it can be stopped. And the arrows that are in the porch that are yet to be taken out and be shot, that also can be stopped. So Gurudev was explaining that, like when you come in the association of devotees and you take initiation, then it's the spiritual master's duty to stop the arrows that are in the porch and the arrows that are already in the bow but has not been shot yet. He can stop it and make your slate clean for you. But the arrows that has already been shot, that has shot you into the system, that cannot be stopped. But still, there is an interference by Guru and Krishna's mercy. That arrows, the actual reaction that's supposed to come upon you, instead of coming to you as a form of reaction, it rather comes to you in the form of temptations, in the form of what we call hurdles, the hurdles in your way and your part of devotional service. So in this way, for each hurdle that you jump, you escape that karma. Each hurdle that comes your way and you are able to jump over it. And this is where you need the association of each other, the association of devotees. In the Christian world, they call it the communion of saints. You need the presence of the association of devotees, so that when the hurdle comes, by their mercy, they will help you gradually to be able to jump over these hurdles gradually. So getting the devotee association is really, really important. And Guru Maharaj was emphasizing. The day he gave that class, he was making a lot of emphasis on that. And so it's not, so he was explaining that it's not that when you become a devotee, then out of nowhere, boom, no problem for you. You are like everything is straight in your path. No, it doesn't work that way. But somehow or the other, the arrows that has been shot already, you have to go through it. It will come in the form of hurdles for you. And once you are able to get over those hurdles, then you are preparing your way to go, never to come back again. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yeah, Harishakra Prabhu has a unique way of always bringing us into the remembrance of the pure devotees, and that is his beautiful nature. When he speaks referencing the brothers, and that's the way of associating, and that's exactly what we're talking about. That the essence of the most beautiful thing that can happen to anyone is to have an opportunity to daily hear, talk, and speak about Krishna and his pure devotees. And Harishakra Prabhu does this very nicely. Thank you so much for that contribution. That was a beautiful example. And I think there is one devotee did a slide to reflect that Gurudev's analogy, where it shows how the arrows, when you shoot arrows in a multiple of arrows, so some has already hit the target, some is on its way to hit the target, some is just leaving the target, and another is still in the bow, is about to be released, and there are so many still. So there was a graphic image of that done by one devotee. I don't know whether I still have somewhere, but it's beautiful. Thank you very much for reminding us that, and also thank you for reminding us so many sharing of Srila Gurudev's teachings. Hare Krishna. So, devotees, I thank you all very much for being here. In the absence of any other comments or questions, I think we will stop here for today. Unless someone has one last comment to say, then we can take that. But if there are none, or there's none, I'll request that because we've been here for about 2 hours now, so we request that we call it a day today and prepare for tomorrow's experience. We thank you very much for being part of this class. We pray that Guru and Krishna will continue to enrich our enthusiasm, our taste for hearing SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. So on this note, I'll request all of the devotees to please kindly unmute. Let us together loudly chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to congratulate ourselves for being part of this experience. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Antakalpataruya Kripa Sindhu Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha.
Vaishnava Thakur ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Gopi Nandi.